I've got another real quick update on the events that took place in the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota, by a group of ICE protesters, and they entered the house of worship and were disruptive of the services. And now it appears that the DOJ is going to be prosecuting them. Just a couple thoughts, real quick. I've read the FACE Act because a lot of people are talking about the FACE Act and what it represents. And the FACE Act is actually freedom of access to clinic entrances, and houses of worship are also underneath that as well. The law talks about these two places, and specifically it talks about access to reproductive health clinics and houses of worship, and what constitutes a violation of this FACE Act, and what the penalties can possibly be. Now, it's interesting because Donald Trump last year pardoned 23 protesters who were violating the FACE Act outside of reproductive health clinics. I'm using my choice of words very carefully here, trying to avoid some censorship. But Trump pardoned 23 violators and said that they never should have been prosecuted under the FACE Act, even though they were restricting access to these reproductive health clinics, and in some cases they were actually causing bodily harm, slamming doors on people's hands and things like that. And Trump pardoned those people. And now the Trump DOJ is going after these ICE protesters who entered this church service. Now, it's interesting because no bodily harm arose from this. I did make a previous video and I said that they shouldn't have done it. I don't think that you should go in and disturb people's houses of worship, but it looks like, according to the law, they could be charged at least with civil charges. And it's interesting because there are stipulations for when actual penalties, financial penalties, and prison time or jail time might come into play, and when the DOJ is allowed to prosecute. And my reading of it is that potentially they can only go after them for civil charges, since there were no bodily injuries. There was just obstruction of worship. So we'll see how all of this plays out. I just think that it's really ironic that the president who pardoned people for violating the FACE Act is now going after people for violating the FACE Act just because they don't approve of his administration.